Welcome back. Now that you've gone through the link about worries and concerns, let me show you some of the worries people have had previously coming into Introduction to GIS. Little geographically shaped word cloud here. Bigger words mentioned more often in terms of a worry that previous students have had when introducing to GIS, when doing Introduction to GIS. And as you can see there, GIS is the big one. Makes sense, that tracks, right? If you're doing an Introduction to GIS course, you might be worried about GIS. But things like ability comes up as able, work, learning, computers are also big concerns. And what I think it's important to emphasize as anyone is learning GIS out there in the world, as anyone is coming into a course in GIS and might have particular concerns or worries or just feelings of hesitancy, maybe, is that everyone who has ever done GIS has felt similar things. People who are doing GIS right now professionally are worried if they're able to do the work, or if they have enough skills, or if they have the computer access, or whatever it might be. So coming into a GIS course with thoughts like this, it's very much a normal, functional way of feeling. As Jorge Cham from Piled Higher and Deeper, PhD comics would say, it's a fire hose. Learning and doing in GIS, whether it's introductory or advanced or any level, is a ton of information, a ton of data, a ton of stuff coming at you all at once. And that's completely how it is. There isn't anything weird, or there's nothing wrong with you if you feel that way. It's just the way it goes. So I want to settle that from the beginning as you're starting your Introduction to GIS pathway here. But there are a couple of myths, two myths that have come up from time to time, that if you hold on to these two too tightly, then things do get a little harder than they need to be. So it is absolutely normal to be worried, to have these thoughts, to feel overwhelmed. But there's a couple of myths that stick around that can actually be a little hurtful to your learning. And the first one is that because the course is titled Introduction to GIS, it's going to be easy. I'm sorry. GIS contains a lot of different components and thoughts and ways of thinking and domains and all these other pieces. So I wouldn't say the Introduction to GIS is easy. It is something that is for everyone. Everyone can do it. Everyone can put the work in. Everyone can learn GIS. But just because it says introduction does not mean that every day is going to be easy. Does not mean that every lab is going to be a walk in the park. Does not mean that every video is going to be quick and simple and easy to work with. GIS contains a lot of multitudes, and we get to deal with all of them because GIS works from a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different backgrounds. And we'll get to work with all of them, really mix them around throughout the entire course. So, not easy, but accomplishable. The other thing that people come in with at times is that GIS is just software. It's just a program. I'm going to learn it like I learn Word or Excel. And I'm always going to be told exactly what to do. So maybe this is two myths together, but both of them are no's. GIS is much more than just a software package. It is a way of thinking. It is a way of understanding the world. It is a way of managing and interpreting and organizing data and thoughts and processes, all of that. Contains multitudes, remember? It's also very independent thinking area of work, area of study. I can give you a lab and say, here's the 5 steps to run this tool. But then there's going to be 3 other ways to run that tool. And maybe there's another tool that does something similar but different that you want to use instead. We set up the foundations. You go from there. Will the first time we ever learn something in the lab, I give you the steps on how to use the tool? Absolutely. For the next lab, will I give you those exact same steps? Absolutely not. You've got to learn it on your own eventually. So, GIS is for everyone. Check. There is nothing in those 2 myths. There is nothing in the kind of way we structure and understand GIS knowledge that prevents anyone from doing GIS. It is so important for us to recognize that GIS as a technology, as an embedded way of thinking, as a container of many different thoughts and ideas and practices, is accessible to everyone and is something that everyone can work with. But in making GIS for everyone, we also have to recognize that GIS has many different ways of doing, many different ways of knowing, and many different approaches. So as we work with GIS, as we operate with it, we're going to see a lot of different ways of doing stuff. And that is pretty cool. But with GIS being for everyone, there are some kind of general big things that everyone needs to connect with. One of the first things is the theory behind GIS, understanding that theory. Not every video is just a lab walkthrough, step 1, step 2, step 3. There's a lot of fundamental underlying maybe constructions about how data works or how computers work or how spatial relationships operate or how different domains are represented inside of so on and so on and so on. So we talk a lot about the theory behind GIS in addition to building technical competency in GIS. Managing the data, running the analysis, pushing the buttons. All of those things are things that we can do and will do throughout the course and throughout your learning of Introduction to GIS in any setup or any location. Finally, we'll develop professional practices, things like creating good maps, things like documenting our analysis, data management. All of those are intertwined as well. We do that with the guidance of 2 big industry-wide or academic domain-wide curriculums. One of them is the Geographic Information Science and Technology Body of Knowledge. This was developed by a wonderful group of people with the University Consortium for Geographic Information Science, or UCGIS. And so the UCGIS Body of Knowledge really helps us or helps guide GIS instructors or GIS learners through objectives and through components that are important for us to learn. So we'll see some of these topics and we'll see some of these ideas as we go on through the semester. We'll also talk about the Pyramid of Doom. I mean, the Geospatial Technology Competency Model. The GTCM is linked in every lab document, and every lab document tells you which of these competencies that lab is addressing. This was developed by the US Department of Labor, among others. It's essentially an outline of expected competencies of a geospatial professional. So you are doing the work, and you are doing the things that a GIS professional would do. We are learning those in this space and through these recordings and through these labs so that you can take those steps into industry or into academia or into other domains or wherever you want to go. So that's pretty cool. As we go on from this, we'll dig more into how the GTCM operates, what it means, how it works, so on and so on. So I've got a couple links for these, or you can do a quick Google of them. Next video talks about what we're going through in the semester in 20 minutes. But we'll save that for the next video.